Southern Illinois University's Aquaculture Research Lab and Illinois Indiana Sea Grant presents the Larval Yellow Perch Culture Video Guide. Module 6, First Feeding. Yellow perch larvae have yolk sacs. Yolk sacs can vary in size and nutritional quality based on the diet of their mothers. The yolk sac is the first feed for yellow perch larvae. You do not need to start introducing external feed immediately after hatch because of this food reserve. Once the yolk sac is roughly 70% of the original size, it is time to start introducing feed. This can be easily assessed by looking at the swimming larvae in a small beaker against the light or under a microscope. You will want to make sure that the feed particles you are offering to the larval yellow perch are small enough to fit into their mouths. To see if larvae are ready for live feeds like rotifers, provide them to the larvae in abundance in a separate small beaker. Observe the larvae and see if they ingest the rotifers. How long this takes will depend mainly on what water temperature the larvae are kept. Additionally, the rotifers will be visually present in the gut. There should be roughly 70% of larvae ingesting the rotifers before introducing the live food to the culture. This ensures the same feeding start point and hence more uniform growth and less mortality caused by cannibalism. Yellow perch larvae are transparent, making it easy to see if feed is present or absent in their digestive tracts. Prior to introducing rotifers to larvae, pour rotifers onto a 50-micron fine mesh sieve and rinse with water. Rinsing rotifers before test for acceptance and feeding will remove unwanted microscopic organisms that may be found in the rotifer culture water. Once you observe that larvae are ready to eat, provide live feed such as rotifers approximately every 2 to 3 hours, 4 to 6 times a day for a minimum of 2 to 3 days before introducing larger live feed organisms like Artemia. Live food should be present in 90% of the fish once the larvae started ingesting it. If less larvae seem full, more live feed should be added. This can be either observed by taking a large sample of larvae, by immersing a beaker and scooping the larvae, and then observing against the light, or by observing the larvae on the surface of the tanks, if possible. Larval yellow perch should be provided live feed regularly as soon as you confirm that they are ready to accept live feed. Larvae should be checked every day once the yolk sac is absorbed for signs of exogenous feeding. Exogenous feeding is when feed is ingested from the environment from outside of the body. Watching larval fish feeding behavior is an important part of feed training. After 3 days of rotifer feeding, test to see if the yellow perch larvae are big enough to start feeding on Artemia nauplii. Prior to introducing or feeding Artemia nauplii to larvae, pour the live food onto a 125 micron mesh sieve and rinse them before providing to larvae. To test Artemia acceptance, introduce small amounts of the Artemia nauplii prior to the regular scheduled feeding and observe larvae feeding behavior. If larvae appear to be eating the newly introduced food, wait 5 to 10 minutes and then check their digestive systems to confirm that they have actually consumed it. You are looking to see if their guts appear orange, like the color of the Artemia nauplii. This is easily visible to the eye. Once you have observed larvae ingesting Artemia, minimum 50%, you can start transitioning them from a diet of rotifers to a diet of Artemia. To transition larvae to a new feed type or size, start by co-feeding both the current feed and the feed you want to transition them to in excess every 2 to 3 hours, 4 to 6 times a day. We usually recommend using different ratios of rotifers to Artemia during the transition. Day 1, 75 to 25. Day 2, 50 to 50. Day 3, 25 to 75. For this situation, you will want to co-feed rotifers and Artemia nauplii for a minimum of 3 days before weaning them off of rotifers and transitioning them to an Artemia-only diet. When feeding Artemia, be careful to use only freshly hatched Artemia for the first 2 to 3 days. Then, as the larvae grow, Artemia can be kept for longer in their incubation jars, since their larger size should not be problematic anymore. It is important to know that Artemia grow quickly and may become too large for the larval yellow perch to ingest if held for too long prior to feeding out. Care should be taken not to feed out Artemia that is too large for larvae to ingest, to decrease the risk of larvae succumbing to starvation. Continue feeding Artemia as you would Rotifers. Feed larvae in excess every 2 to 3 hours, 4 to 6 times a day. Add salt as needed until transitioned from live food to dry formulated diets. Keep water turbid with clay. This may not be possible overnight. Add clay until day post hatch 35 and keep nozzles spraying water until day post hatch 40. Feed training larval fish is more of an art than a science. Introduction and progression through feed types and particle sizes is dependent on system environment, the larval fish's health condition, and feeding behavior. It is important to observe feeding behavior daily and be open to adjusting your standard feed protocol to meet the needs of your larvae. Observation and adaptation are key to successful feed management. Water quality management and maintenance of optimal environment are equally important. Watch Module 10, Principles of Dry Feed Training, to learn how to transition larval yellow perch from live feed diet to a formulated feed diet.